Some dreams fade the moment we wake up. Others follow us, quietly changing the way we see ourselves, the world, and the darkness within. This is not a story about sleep. It is a story about what happens when the mind opens doors the soul is not ready to close. What you are about to hear is a journey through fear, memory, and choice. A dream that felt more real than reality itself. A place where shadows whisper truths, where reflections lie, and where light can only be found by those brave enough to walk into the darkness. Listen carefully. Because some dreams are not meant to be forgotten. They are meant to be understood. It was just past midnight when I first noticed the subtle shift in the air, a feeling so intangible that I could not name it. The wind outside my small apartment window had a peculiar tone, like a melody played backward, whispering secrets in a language I had never learned. I had been restless for hours, turning from one side to another, my thoughts bouncing between fragments of forgotten memories and the vivid imaginings of what could be. Sleep finally claimed me just as the clock struck 1, but it brought with it no comfort, only the strange sensation of being caught in the delicate web of a dream that seemed almost too real to dismiss. In the dream, I found myself standing at the edge of a dense forest, its trees stretching so high that their tops disappeared into a thick, rolling fog that obscured the moonlight. The ground beneath my feet was damp and uneven, and the scent of wet soil and decaying leaves hung in the air, heavy and persistent. As I walked, each step seemed to echo in a space far larger than my eyes could perceive, as if the forest itself had hollowed out a cathedral around me, vast and silent, waiting for something to awaken it. I could feel eyes watching me, though whenever I turned my head, I saw only the shifting shadows of branches and the faint glimmer of distant light reflecting off dewdrops. Suddenly, a soft voice called out from the shadows, almost too faint to hear. "Do you know why you are here?" it asked. My heart jumped into my throat, but I could not move, paralyzed by the weight of anticipation and an inexplicable sense of familiarity. "Who's there?" I whispered, my voice trembling. The shadows shifted, and a figure emerged, a tall man draped in a cloak of midnight blue, his face hidden beneath a hood. There was something oddly comforting about him, yet also terrifying, as though he carried the knowledge of every secret I had ever tried to bury. "I am here to guide you," he said, his voice calm yet commanding. "But you must choose carefully, for every path you take leads to consequences you cannot yet imagine." I wanted to ask him questions, but the words would not come. Instead, I followed him, drawn by a curiosity that outweighed my fear. With each step, the forest seemed to grow taller, the fog thicker, and the light dimmer. The trees themselves whispered, their voices like silk brushing against my ears, telling stories of lives I had never lived, places I had never seen, and emotions I had never felt. We arrived at a clearing where a small, black pond reflected the faint silver of the moon. The water was perfectly still, unnaturally so, like a mirror that held more than just reflections. The man gestured toward it. "Look," he said. I peered into the water and gasped. It was not my own reflection that stared back, but a mosaic of moments from my life, both lived and unlived, blended together in impossible patterns. I saw my childhood fears, my lost friendships, my moments of triumph, and my deepest regrets, all intertwining as though the pond was a repository of my soul itself. "Everything you fear, everything you desire, all of it exists here," he explained. "And yet, it is only a fraction of what awaits you." The words sent a chill down my spine. I wanted to turn away, but something compelled me to lean closer, to see every detail, every memory. And then I noticed a new figure in the reflection, one I did not recognize, an ethereal woman, her eyes glowing with a soft light, her expression both pleading and warning. She seemed trapped, like she was calling out to me, though silently. I felt a surge of urgency, a sense that my dream, though unreal, carried a weight that could influence reality. Before I could speak, the man turned and gestured toward a narrow path winding into the forest. "You must find her," he said simply. "But beware, for the forest shifts according to your fears, and what you see may not be what is true." I followed the path, my legs moving faster than my mind could comprehend. The air grew colder, and strange shapes began to move just beyond my vision, shadows twisting and writhing like living things. I could hear whispers, voices repeating my name, mingling with laughter and cries, building into a symphony of confusion and dread. After what felt like hours, I emerged into another clearing, this one illuminated by a strange, golden light that did not come from the moon or stars. In the center stood the woman from the pond, her glow brighter now, casting long shadows that danced across the ground. "Help me," she said, her voice echoing in my mind rather than through the air. "I am bound by chains you cannot see, trapped by a force older than time itself." I stepped closer, reaching out instinctively, and as my fingers brushed hers, a surge of energy shot through me, a current of memories not my own, of centuries of pain and longing. The forest around us seemed to react. Trees groaned, the fog churned, and from the darkness emerged figures, creatures of shadow and mist, their eyes gleaming with malice. The man in blue stepped forward, raising his hands, and suddenly, a barrier of light surrounded us. "You must choose," he said urgently. "Will you free her, risking your own soul, or turn back and leave her to the darkness?" My mind reeled. The rational part of me screamed to flee, but something deeper, a sense of destiny, of inevitability, urged me forward. I grasped her hands fully, and in that instant, the world seemed to explode into light and sound, memories colliding with visions, time folding in on itself. I felt myself lifted, pulled through the fog and the shadows, and then I was somewhere entirely new. The sky was an impossible shade of purple, streaked with gold, and the ground shimmered like liquid glass. The woman looked at me, her eyes filled with gratitude and sorrow. "You have chosen wisely," she said. "But this is only the beginning." A door appeared in the distance, carved from stone and inscribed with runes I could not understand, glowing faintly as though alive. "Beyond this door lies the truth of all things," she continued. "The truth you seek, the answers you crave, but also the darkness you fear most." I approached, my heart hammering, and as I reached for the door, a voice boomed from the sky, deep and resonant. "You cannot proceed without facing yourself." The words echoed, shaking the very ground beneath me. I realized that the shadows I had encountered were not external, they were fragments of me, parts I had hidden or ignored, and now they demanded recognition. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and allowed myself to confront them. Fear, anger, regret, longing, all rose up like a storm, threatening to consume me, but I held steady, letting each emotion pass through me without resisting. When I opened my eyes again, the door began to shift, changing shape, revealing a staircase that spiraled downward into darkness. The woman placed her hand on my shoulder. "Go," she whispered. "And know that even if you fail, your courage will echo across realms." I stepped forward, the shadows clawing at my heels, the air thick with anticipation and dread. Each step felt eternal, the staircase twisting and turning in ways that defied logic, yet I pressed on, driven by a force I could neither name nor resist. At last, I reached the bottom, and there stood a mirror, larger than anything I had ever seen, framed with the same runes as the door. My reflection was not my own, it was a composite of every life I had imagined, every fear, every hope, every moment of joy and sorrow. And within that reflection, I saw her again, trapped behind a veil of light and shadow, reaching out for me. I understood then that the mirror was not merely a reflection, it was a test, a challenge to face all that I was and all that I could be. I stepped closer, raising my hand to touch the surface, and the mirror rippled like water, swallowing my reflection. The energy surged through me, tearing at my mind, yet filling me with clarity and purpose. I heard the man's voice one last time, "The choice is yours alone. Will you take the light, or will the darkness claim you?" I inhaled deeply, and with every ounce of will I had, I stepped into the mirror, embracing both the light and the shadow, the known and the unknown. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, I woke. The room was silent, the clock read 3:17 a.m., and I was drenched in sweat, my heart still racing. Yet there was a calmness too, a profound sense that something within me had shifted, that I had glimpsed a truth larger than myself. I lay back, staring at the ceiling, knowing that while the dream had ended, its echoes would linger, shaping the way I saw the world and myself forever. Dreams end when we wake up. But some awakenings never truly end. That night, I returned to my bed, to my room, to my life. Yet something inside me had changed forever. I knew then that the darkness I had faced was not an enemy, it was a mirror. And the light I found was not given to me, it had always been there, waiting. Perhaps the dream was a warning. Perhaps it was a test. Or perhaps it was simply a reminder that the greatest journeys are not taken with our feet, but with our courage. If you have ever felt lost, if you have ever feared what lies within you, remember this. Sometimes, the only way to find the light is to walk willingly into the darkness. And once you do, you will never see yourself the same way again.